Hello and welcome back. In this video we will walk through a simple Python program. In the beginning I will give you an overview of what I plan to cover, then I will switch over to Python idle editor, walk you through the script and then run the program in Python shell. At the end, if you've enjoyed this video, please consider liking, sharing and subscribing. Now let's begin. For this Python program, the purpose is to examine three methods of developing a Python function that will build a list based on input parameters. The first method will use a for loop, the second will define a function to build a list with one input parameter, and the third will define a function to build a list with two input parameters. Python uses lists, which are more general data structures that can be used to represent arrays. With an array, multiple values can be stored and each is referenced with the name of the array and specifying an index value. The individual values of an array are known as elements. A list in Python is simply an ordered collection of items, each of which can be of any type. A list is a dynamic mutable data structure, and this means that items can be added to and deleted from it. The list data structure is the most common data sequence in Python. A sequence is a set of values identified by integer indices. An individual item in the list can be referenced by using an index, which is an integer number that indicates the relative position of the item in the list. There are several categories of functions, such as simple functions where there is no data transfer involved, functions that return a single value after completion, functions that specify one or more parameters as data items are transferred to the function, and functions that allow data transfers in both directions. Data within a function is known only locally. This means the scope of the data is local to the function and it has a limited lifetime, meaning it only exists during execution. In this example, we will focus on calling functions with parameters or arguments. A function defined with one or more parameter specifications allows data transfer to the function when called. The data values used when calling these functions are known as arguments. Every argument in a function call must correspond to a parameter specification in the function definition. A function that is called with two arguments must be defined with two parameters. Now, let's open up the Python idle editor and develop a script that will build a list using a for loop, a function with one input parameter and a function with two input parameters. First, start out by putting identification information for the Python file enclosed by three quotations. For the program file name, let's title it buildlist.py. Then the author information, and for that, I'll put my name Lewis. Next the date, which is September 5, 2022, and lastly I'll put a short description of the program. This program builds three lists. The first list will be built using a for loop with values that are multiples of 3, the second list will be built using a function with one input parameter that are multiples of 4, and the third will be built using a function with two input parameters that are multiples of 5. Now, let's first start off with building a list that are multiples of 3 using the Python for loop. A list can be created starting with an empty list and items can be appended using a for loop. The append method is an operation of a list and is very useful for creating a list. I want the size of all the lists to be 5. Start out by typing size equals 5 and press enter. Now type list1 equals open and close brackets, then press enter. This is the empty list that we will append values into. Then type for n in range, open parenthesis, 1, size plus 1, close parenthesis, colon, and press enter. As stated previously, for this list we want it to be multiples of 3, therefore type item equals n multiplied by 3 and press enter. Now type list1.append, open parenthesis, item, close parenthesis, press enter. Okay, now we are ready to print the list. Type print, open parenthesis, quotation, list1 is, colon, close the quotation, list1, close the parenthesis and press enter. The print function prints the specified message to the screen, or other standard output device. The message can be a string, or any other object. The object will be converted into a string before being written to the screen. Later, when we run the module, this list will print 5 numbers that are multiples of 3. Next, let's define a function to build a list with values that are multiples of 4 with one input parameter. One or more lists can be passed to a function and the lists are used as arguments in the function call. The lists are specified as parameters in the function definition. A list can be returned by a function and the list must be defined within the function. Start out by typing def build list, open parenthesis, size, close parenthesis, colon, and press enter. Now type list2 equals open and close brackets, then press enter. Next is the for loop. Type for n in range, open parenthesis, 1, comma, size plus 1, close parenthesis, colon, and press enter. As stated previously, for this list we want it to be multiples of 4, therefore type item equals n multiplied by 4 and press enter. Now type list2.append, open parenthesis, item, close parenthesis, press enter. Type return list2, then press enter. Next, let's set the size, type size equals 5, press enter. Now type list2 equals build list, open parenthesis, size, close parenthesis, and press enter. Okay, now we are ready to print the list. Type print, open parenthesis, quotation, list2 is, colon, close the quotation, comma, list2, close the parenthesis and press enter. Later, when we run the module, this list will print 5 numbers that are multiples of 4. Next, let's define a function to build a list with values that are multiples of 5 with 2 input parameters. The function has 2 parameters, first a list and second a simple variable size. The function builds the list by appending items into it. Start out by typing def build list, open parenthesis, list3, comma, size, close parenthesis, colon, and press enter. Next is the for loop. Type for n in range, open parenthesis, 1, comma, size plus 1, close parenthesis, colon, and press enter. As stated previously, for this list we want it to be multiples of 5, therefore type item equals n multiplied by 5 and press enter. Now type list3.append, open parenthesis, item, close parenthesis, press enter. Type return list3, then press enter. Next, let's set the size, type size equals 5, press enter. Now type list3 equals, open and close brackets, then press enter. Now type build list, open parenthesis, list3, comma, size, close parenthesis, and press enter. Okay, now we are ready to print the list. Type print, open parenthesis, quotation, list3 is, colon, close the quotation, comma, list3, close the parenthesis and press enter. When we run the module, this will print 5 numbers that are multiples of 5. Now, let's run the module and confirm the program that builds 3 lists, the first using a for loop to generate values that are multiples of 3, the second using a function with 1 input parameter to build a list that are multiples of 4, and the third using a function with 2 input parameters to build a list that are multiples of 5. In the Python idle editor header, click Run, then click Run Module. After the idle shell opens, based on the code we input, Python builds the 3 expected lists. List 1 is 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, list 2 is 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, and list 3 is 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. Thank you for watching my video. If you've enjoyed this video and found it informative, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. Please hit the notification bell so you'll be notified when I upload videos to YouTube. I'll see you next week with a new Python video. Until next time, take care.